Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Right, so we're going to talk about bar chords today, which is a bonjour, Brian. Um, yeah, it's a big subject, isn't it? But I'm going to try to just show you some tips and tricks that I've figured out teaching mainly. Um, and sorry, I'm looking at the chat at the same time. I'm back from holidays, so I'm still pretty chill. I'm going to try to get back to the rhythm of doing a live like this. Right, yeah, so teaching bar chords is always a bit of a challenge because bar chords are a challenge. And not only it's a challenge for everyone, but it's a milestone, unfortunately. Like we all have to learn bar chords at some point. Um, and I'm all right with them today, but when I started playing guitar, I remember hating bar chords. I almost quit guitar when I had to play my first bar chords because I thought my hands couldn't do it. That's it. Like it's not made for me. Turns out, with a bit of practice and a few tricks, I managed to play my first bar chords, and now I'm not thinking about them anymore. So I'm going to try to show you, some tips and tricks that I've figured out myself over the years. Right. So let's talk about the first thing for me, which is the confusion we all have with bar chords. We all think when we start with them that it's all about the strength. Like we have to press hard on the strings. And it's not true. You've got to be precise, but you don't have to be strong. I mean, look at me. I'm not I'm not very muscular, but I can play bar chords. Luckily, it's not about strength, so I'm right with them. So it's all about your precision. It's where you press more than how hard you press. And I think a lot of beginners or late beginners, when they get into bar chords, they all think they've got to press really hard because they're pressing onto 6 strings at the same time. It's not actually true. So let me show you the first trick. So the first trick is where to press. So let's say I'm playing an A major with an E-shaped bar chord. So it's usually the first bar chord we learn. It's the F over there. It's the same position I'm playing, but here on fret number 5, just so you can see it. If you look at my fingers, look at my first finger. There's a couple of things to look at. The first thing is I'm not over there. I'm not at the top of the fret. I'm not in the middle. I'm at the bottom of the fret here. And the reason for that is because the way a guitar works, the string is making a sound not because you're pushing it against the fretboard, like the wood of the guitar. It's making a sound because it's stuck against the metal fret, so the metal lines that you got there. So what you want is a good contact point between the string and that metal fret, more than anything else before that. It doesn't matter what you do before. So let me do that again. You can't see the fret actually. I'm right above it. So let me see if I turn that way and I get rid of the other fingers, there it is. You can see it there. I'm literally right above it. Doing so helps me it's 2 things. It helps me get a good contact point between the string and the fret, but also it's a way for me to know where I'm at on the fretboard. Because the problem is that most of the time when you're playing live or even in studios sometimes, you can't really see the fretboard. It can be really confusing. So feeling the fret helps me know where I'm at. So that's another thing. Now, the way I press with my first finger is with the side of you can actually see the marks of the strings. It's subtle, but it's there. So I'm not pressing with the bottom of the finger. My finger isn't flat. I'm not using that part here. I'm using that part here. The reason for that is because this here is, it's muscles and flesh, so it's not great to press against something. But this here, the side of it, and I'm not using the side like this, I'm using the bottom of it. The side here, that's the bones of the first finger, the index finger. So same thing, that's helping me get a really good and solid contact point between the strings and the fret. So the way I do it, and the way I started doing it, is by basically aiming for the metal fret. So you see this one here. I'm going to aim for it, and then I just rotate my finger a little bit on its side. And I've got a good... a good contact point here. If I've got my first finger flat like this, like straight away, I know I'm going to have to press harder. So you see, I'm just using the side of it like this. Also, because of the way my fingers are and all that, it's just way more comfortable. So that's the first thing. Is that making sense? Is it something you're aware of? Because I know a lot of beginners and late beginners, they tend to have their first finger completely flat. And it works for some people, and some great musicians do that, but I know for me it didn't work. Like the bottom of my finger wasn't just strong enough to get a good grip on all the frets. Another thing I see a lot is people who have a really good technique, but the string ends up right between two knuckles, so it's muted, and that's really frustrating, especially when you get into a minor bar chord like this one here. Usually the G string is right on a knuckle, and you get something like, and you can never hear it's a minor chord because you would need that. So using the side of the finger definitely helped me get that sort of nice bar chord. Let me look at the chat. So Brian says, just practice over time. Your hand will just get used to it. A bit of pain at first, but give yourself a good break. So that's another thing with bar chords. I don't believe musicians have to go through pain to get better. Like guitar has never been painful for me. Never. Otherwise, I'm way too weak. I would have given up a long time ago. It's not painful. It is tiring, yes, but never painful. Like not to a point where I'm thinking, oh, it's hurting. You know, like it's never painful. If you feel pain, it probably means your technique could be a bit better, or you're practicing too hard and you probably need some rest. But pain shouldn't be part of the practice and the process of learning an instrument. I can't remember. I mean, I remember like doing some long live sessions where I had to play the same song over and over again or something like that, where, yeah, my hand was really tired to the point where I had like muscle pain, but not like pain. So Brian says, I mean, the first time also, yes, tiring, yeah, but your hand will feel it. Yeah. I mean, being tired is part of the process, unfortunately. But Brian is right. Give yourself a good break. When I'm teaching bar chords to my students here in this room or on Skype or whatever, I always say that when you're practicing bar chords, don't feel bad for practicing bar chords for 5 minutes and then having a 15-minute break. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It took me, I didn't have a teacher back then. I was self-taught, but it took me a good 3 months to play my first bar chord because my hands were a bit smaller and I didn't really know how it worked and all of that. With a proper like structure, such as the club, or whatever, it's probably not going to take you 3 months to play your first bar chord, but it's fine to take your time with bar chords. It's such a milestone. I do consider myself like, I think you're not a beginner when you play bar chords. To me, that's like that. It's that milestone. Right, let me see the chat. So Vero Conium says, I get pain in the thumb when doing bar chords. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to show you my position. Raphael, hi Franco. I don't struggle much with making the strings ring, but I notice my thumb gets tired. So, right, so thumb. If I play a song that is full of bar chords after 3 minutes. Okay. Brian says, I found when I first started not having your guitar set up properly. Oh yeah, you do need a proper setup on your guitar. And Raf says, I try not to put too much tension in my grip, but it's hard. Okay, let me show you something that saved my life so many times when I started doing my first shows and I had to play bar chords for a long time. Just going to show you my playing position. Again, it's very personal. Maybe some other mentors wouldn't do it that way, or some other musicians that you look at. It's the way I do it, but it definitely helped me. So I'm going to face the camera, this one here, right? My body is facing it right now, but the guitar's got an angle. Let me show you. If I go on the side, you see how far the guitar is from me. It's not like this. It's like that. There's quite a big angle there. And that's because there's that bloody lead over there. Sorry about that. But I want to be able to reach the guitar without having to, you see the angle of my wrist? I want to avoid that. That is not great if you're getting into bar chords. So what you want is, as much as you can, a straight line between the elbow and the fingers, basically. A little bit of an angle like this is perfectly fine. But if you feel pain in the wrist, it probably means you're holding the guitar too close to you. I'm playing a Strat, but Strats are usually well balanced. You see, I'm not holding it, staying there. It's not dropping. If I hold it like that, if I put it like that, you see how it's dropping on its own. So trust, if you're playing a Strat, that's a great way to just learn your posture. Trust the guitar. The Strat will tell you if it's like if you're holding it properly or not. Now, talking about the thumb, so I've got a weird thumb, as in I'm double jointed, so my thumb goes backward. But what I've noticed with my students is that it's not so much about where you place the thumb, it's more about where it's facing. If you feel pain here, or sometimes, there, I don't know if that's a muscle or not. Unfortunately, I'm not a doctor. But if you feel pain there, usually what you can do is have your thumb facing the headstock of the guitar, like this, rather than that or that. Sometimes that helps a little bit. The thumb position, to me, is around that line there. So right in the middle of the fretboard, of the neck, sorry. But like if I show you the way I play a bar chord, my thumb is, let me show you. How can I do that? Yeah, you see that looks weird. So I can't really teach you that. I see Gerard has the same problem. Yeah, so my thumb sort of goes backwards, which is cool. I don't feel anything. It's not painful at all. But yeah, I mean, if it's not painful, you're doing it right. That's usually the way I teach that. As in, again, guitar shouldn't be painful. So if you feel pain in your thumb, it probably means either you're pressing too hard, or you can probably move your thumb position either facing the headstock, so that way. So I'm trying to do that. Or dropping it a little bit so it's right in the middle of the neck. That usually helps. What I've noticed as well is usually my students who complain about thumb pain, it's just because they think they've got to press really hard with these two fingers. So it's usually because you don't trust that you're precise enough to play bar chords. A really good test that I do with every single one of my students is like, put your first finger on the low E string, for example, and don't press at all. Just feel the low E string and play that string. You get that sound, that muted string. And now start pressing a little bit and a little bit, and you carry on. There we go, I've got a note. To be completely honest with you, I'm barely feeling any pressure there. I could literally like get rid of my thumb. You see, I'll put it below so you can see that. And the note is still there. So we tend to think we need to press really hard on the strings. We don't really need to. Look, even if I'm not using my thumb at all, I'm sure I can play a decent bar. Yeah. So I'm pulling with the first finger, which isn't right. But just to show you that we don't really need that huge grip with the left hand that we tend to think is what we've got to do. We don't really need that. Let me check the chat. Yeah, let's talk about the setup because Brian mentioned it. Another thing is setup is important. Usually a guitar out of a shop has got a decent setup. Make sure your guitar is well set up. It's important, but don't over focus on that. Don't think it's the setup or whatever. Bring it once to the shop. If you feel like your bar chords aren't right, it's probably your technique and not the guitar anymore. But I see too many of my students who obsess with the setup and the action and all of that. Of course, a good setup will make you play not better, but it's just going to make things easier. I've played some awful guitars that had an awful setup. You can still make them sound right. It's a bit of a fight and you get tired and it's not great for the tendons. Don't do it. But yeah, don't over obsess with the setup of your guitar. Though, when you're getting into bar chords, I always recommend my students to go to a proper luthier, get a good setup, and then move on. It's fine. Usually, like on this guitar there, the setup, I do it once a year, but I play that guitar a lot. So I do it either at the end of the winter or at the beginning of the summer or something like that. Anyway, yeah, if you feel like no matter what you do, bar chords don't work, setup could be something to look into. So Brian is absolutely right. Be careful with that. Let me check the chat. So Raphael says, I try not to put too much strength, tension in my grip, but it's hard. It is very difficult. Yeah, fair enough. Again, it's because we tend to think when we get into bar chords that we need to press really hard. And it's not actually true. So the test is just put a finger flat, just one, the first finger, obviously, and right above the metal fret. You see how when I'm playing a bar chord or about to play a bar chord, you can't really see my fret. I'm right above it, right above it. I can feel it. And I'm rotating the first finger a little bit, so I'm using the side of it. Makes things a lot cleaner straight away. So try that, just one finger, and just try to relax until you feel like you can do that and not really think about it. And it works. If you've got this, then it's all about placing these three, which I know sounds easy and it's not, because it's going to bring your first finger towards you or push the first finger up or whatever. But you've got the first step. So that's the first step. Right, so Jared says, I have double jointed thumb as well. You see, and Jared is doing really well in the club. I'm impressed with your challenge. You did really well. So you see, double jointed people, they're still very good guitar players. Happy for you. Hitchhiker thumb. I didn't know it had a name. Because it's too easy. So Raf says he's got the same thing. It's a disadvantage in this case because it's too easy to get an improper position. That is quite true. It's about listening to yourself. Like if you feel like the hand is getting painful and the thumb is getting sore, whatever, maybe, yeah, as I've said before, your thumb should aim for a different place. So usually to me, it's like aiming towards the headstock, towards my left. Also, pressing too hard might even make the note go sharp. Absolutely. Especially if your setup is high or if the frets are brand new, whatever, pressing too hard, we tend to bend the strings down as well. So yeah, just try what I said. You know, you just, on whatever guitar you've got, you just choose a note, barely press on the string, and you start pressing until you can hear the note. That's the pressure. That's the amount of pressure you've got to put on the string to make it sound right. It's usually a lot less than what we put on the fretboard. It's a lot less than what I put on the fretboard. What I'm doing, I'm pressing harder than that. But it's, it's fine. It's just being aware of it so you can dial it down when you need to, when you're getting tired. So Smiley says, I can get them, but I'm slow in moving them to get them sounding right. Really struggling with the 5-string bar 3. His doesn't help. Oh, okay. Yeah, that is probably not helping. I get it. So when you say moving them, is it transitioning from one bar chord to the other using the same position? So for example, if I'm going G major, A major, doing that kind of stuff? Or is it more like changing bar chord positions, such as G major, C major? Is that what you mean? Okay, so the first one, I guess. Okay, another trick that I absolutely love is when your first bar chord's working and you're staying in the same position. Let's say I'm playing a G major there, and I'm sliding up to a C major, so fret number 8, using the same position. Most people would do this. Let me show you that way. They would do that. They would play the G major. They would move their whole hand like this, not touching the strings, and then they would build again the shape on fret number 8. What I would do, when you saw that just there, is I'm using the strings almost like the rails of a train to sort of show me where to go. So I'm going to keep my fingers onto the strings, holding on to that position. I'm very relaxed. I'm not pressing at all. But I'm not going to move my fingers if I don't need to. It's all about being lazy. So I would go G. And you see I'm sliding here. And I'm just looking at my first finger to know when to stop. So use the strings to show you where to go. Like use them as grooves to bring you to the next position you're going to. The beauty of bar chords is that the first step is a lot harder than any other open chords you learn previously, usually. As in, it's easier to learn an A minor open chord than a bar chord. Fair enough. But usually, once you know your bar chords, the transitions are a lot easier. The reason why you see so many advanced or intermediate players use bar chords all the time, I use bar chords all the time. The reason why you see them doing so is because the transitions are just a lot easier. It's a lot easier and it's a lot cleaner. Of course, you need to get the first position right, but then going from one position to the other is usually a little bit easier. When you're going from A minor to E major, all your fingers are moving up a string. Like everything's moving. So that's obviously a bit trickier. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, use the strings to show you and to slide onto them to show you where to go and to just bring your hand to the right position without having to overmove your fingers, basically. Less is more. The less you move your fingers, the cleaner the transitions. Right. So we've talked about that big E shape there. Now, the minor one would work the same way, right? You see that it's literally just my middle finger. Again, if the first finger here is holding on to the strings properly, you'll have the minor one and the major one. Let's talk about the A shape. Now, the A shape is a weird one because I think there's like 3 options to play it. The first option is, let's say I'm playing a C major, so my first finger is on, the root note is on the A string, and my first finger is playing fret number 3 there, which is the C. So the first option is to bar with the first finger, and then on fret number 5, I've got the middle, the third, the pinky. So 1 finger per string. Slightly out of tune. That's the first option. The second option is third finger, the ring finger flat here, playing the 3 strings. And the last one is the one I usually go to. You'll see that it's going to sound probably a little bit better. Is the pinky flat. Now, some people can't bend their pinky that way, which is fine. Some people don't like the third finger. And some people don't like this one. It's all about finding the shape you like. Each one of my students got a different favorite one. I can never predict which one is going to be, but there's always one that we like a little bit more. To me, it was the one with the pinky. There's no wrong way to do it if you stay within these 3 shapes. I've seen everything. I think Clapton does it with the ring finger. So if Clapton does it, you're probably safe. It means it's good, you know, it's a good option. Now, the thing with that bar chord is that it's not actually a bar chord. Let's talk about it. So I'm going back to my C major, so I'm using the pinky here. The first thing is, when I'm playing that bar chord with my pinky, my high E string is muted. And I don't mind. Like it's not a problem for me, because when I'm playing that shape, what I want is this. If I want a higher C, I would usually go for a different hand position, a different chord. So my high E string is muted, and it's all right. If I really want that high E string, worst case scenario, like on a recording or whatever, I'll go for that shape. And I've got my out of tune high E string now. Now, that means I've got my root note here, and I've got my 5th, my third, sorry, my octave, my 3rd, and then nothing. So basically my chord is just a pinky and that root note. So my first finger here doesn't have to bar because I'm barring here already. So these strings are played over there, not over there. This doesn't make any noise anymore because the strings are locked here by the pinky. So the pinky is doing most of the work, and my first finger doesn't have to be flat. The first finger can actually be very relaxed because all I need from that first finger is the root. Sorry. Instead of this, you see. Sounds exactly the same. But by doing so, my first finger can now, I mean, it's not a bar chord, as we usually call them, just because this one isn't barring, right? So you can really relax your first finger when you're playing that shape. I know this one is usually, out of the main 4 shapes, this one is probably the hardest one to teach, at least, because there's 3 options and all that. and it's quite awkward to play. But remember that the first finger can really relax. Right, let me check the chat. So what do we have? I'm really surprised you prefer using the pinky over the third finger for that shape. Yeah, I mean, I think the reason for that is because when I started learning my bar chords, and I remember that time because it was a bit of a trauma. Like I really hated them. My hands were a little bit smaller, so the stretch was actually too big for me, and the pinky just came there naturally, and I kept it. Now I can definitely play a bar chord with the ring finger. It's just not the way I would go. The other thing is when I play for a long time, I like having my hand. I mean, when you see videos of me playing, I always have my hand almost flat on the strings. Like if I'm playing this, like you see how relaxed it looks. It looks like it's literally just my hand flat, and I can play longer because my hand is just in a position that feels natural. But again, there's nothing wrong with the third finger. There's nothing wrong with fingers 2, 3, and 4. It's all about what you want to do and what feels comfortable to you. So Smiley says the ring finger 1 I struggle with. Find it easier to use my pinky too. Fair enough. Welcome to the club. Gerard, thanks, but I'll admit I definitely have the habit of pressing harder than I should when playing, which is also why my frets are all worn out. Yeah, my frets are completely dead on that guitar as well. Need to get them refretted. With that cost, I may just change the neck altogether. Yeah, I'm actually going through the same thing. So I had how do you call it? It's not a refret, but it's the step before that. It's, how do we call that again? When we don't change the frets, but the luthier just shape the frets again, so they're not flat. They're back to their shape. Can't remember the name of that. But so I had to do that 3 years ago on that guitar. Crowning, thank you. Thank you guys. Sorry, I've been speaking French for 2 weeks. My brain is just not following. Fret dress, yes, Paul, thank you. Always there to get my back. Yeah, so I had a fret dress on this guitar 3 years ago, and they're now flat again. The problem with flat frets is, remember what we said at the beginning of the live today. The string is pushing against the fret. Now, if the fret is like this, it's fine. It's like the contact point between the string and the fret, which makes the pitch of the noise you're playing. The contact point is really small, so that's fine. Now, if the fret is flat on top, that means the contact point is huge, and what you're going to have is a note that sounds out of tune. So that's why we want frets. And we want frets that are like, that have a proper angle, like they're not flat on top. Because otherwise it just sounds, I think it sounds a bit sharp if you have frets that are too flat. So yeah, I mean, changing the neck, I'm thinking about it as well on this guitar, but I'm quite attached to it because that neck has followed me on a lot of different gigs. Anyway, yeah, it proves that you're probably pressing a little bit harder. Now, having frets that get worn out is natural. It's part of the life of a guitar that you play. And I find it's a bit like a scar on your guitar. You know, it's like it's living. It's a guitar you play. It's a good thing. I've played some beautiful strats from the 60s, and the frets were completely worn out. And still, you know, you think, well, it's a guitar that's been played. It's good. It's a good thing. Gerard, now it's a question of tall, narrow, or jumbo frets. You know what? That I'm having exactly the same issue with that guitar because I bought that guitar when I was 17, so I can't remember the specs. I don't know what frets it was, and I don't know if I would like them today. So I'm a bit scared of changing the frets because I don't know what I want on this. My cat is making some weird noises behind me. Anyway, so yeah, the main thing with bar chords is relax your fingers and try to see how efficient you can be. So aiming properly is going to help you, especially with the first finger being flat. Aiming at the bottom of the fret, feeling the fret a little bit will probably make you sound a lot cleaner, but also relaxing your hand. Playing bar chords for 3 minutes long and feeling tired is normal. Feeling pain isn't normal. The worst thing you can do is to have a bad wrist position, which we've talked about before, but basically is to do something like this. This here I'm not a huge fan of. Usually when I play, my wrist is as much as I can is flat. I'm always going to have a little bit of an angle. It's fine, but you don't want this. Okay. So be careful with that. If you feel pain, you're doing it wrong most of the time. And the last thing I wanted to mention is the beauty of humans playing guitar is that we're all very different. We've got different size of hands and fingers. I don't have huge hands for a guitar player. Some of my friends have huge hands and bar chords are a piece of cake for them. To me, it was a bit of a fight, and it's fine. Don't worry about it, because I see too many of my students, especially here when they're face to face, and they go, well, my hands are too small, or my hands are too big, or whatever. Don't worry about it. It's fine. You can still play bar chords. It's all about listening to yourself. So again, short practice sessions, long breaks when you're tackling bar chords. Okay. Have you guys got any questions on bar chords and any more tricks I could show you? Smiley is talking about the F major chord, I guess. Makes me twist a bit. Yeah. We all hate that F chord. Sorry, my cat is coming to play bar chords with us. Yeah, the F major bar chord is I mean, it's a milestone. It's a big step, but the day you'll get it and you won't think about it, it's going to be, it's going to be a day where you can have a pint and celebrate. Like I know I wish, guys, honestly, I wish I had videos of me when I was learning bar chords. I hated them. Bending the wrist too much can also cause tendon issues as well. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm always annoying my students with the wrist positions, because I want them to be able to play for years and years and years and not feel like they've got to see a doctor because they've injured themselves. So yeah, be careful with the wrist position. Again, should feel comfortable. A guitar should feel comfortable. There's one more thing I wanted to mention, and it's playing bar chords the way I actually play bar chords. It's with the thumb. This here is perfectly fine. So we're not, especially with the club, we're not looking at classical guitar or like traditional old school guitar. We're pretty much always talking about modern electric guitar or modern acoustic guitar. So playing with the thumb over is fine. I'll probably do a live just on that and show you how I do it. Because people think I need to have huge hands to play with the thumb. Again, don't have huge hands. I play with the thumb all the time. I rarely go like this. Like rarely. I usually go like this. And my chords is fine. So it's worth giving it a try, because some people just click with it. I clicked with it. And some people don't like it. If you don't like it, it's fine. So yeah, just think about it. If you feel like you listen to a lot of Hendrix or Frusciante or all these guys that play with the thumb over is valid now. It's fine. So Raphael says, I keep on, sorry, because my accent is terrible with names, so I keep mispronouncing names. I'm sorry, guys. I guess one question I have is, when switching between muting and not muting a chord, playing funky rhythm, for example, I struggle with accidentally not muting the barred high E string. Okay, so you mean you've got something like this? Gonna try. So let's say I'm playing a funky pattern on a G major. You would have something like this. I'm gonna slow it down. Sorry, something like this, where you can hear the high E string on its own. Is that what you mean? Just waiting for your answer because there's a bit of delay with the chat. Usually, I'll start showing you. Waiting for your answer. Exactly, the high E string keeps ringing. Okay, cool. Let me see if I can have a better angle on myself. There we go. So I'm going to play a different chord just so you can see my position. So usually it means you're pulling a little bit like this. So what happens is, here you can see that's my natural playing position. Now if you pull the wrist, sorry, I'm going to stop moving. If you pull the wrist up like this, what's going to happen is the first finger is going to basically always have contact here on the high E string. It could be a couple of things. It could be you just over adjusting your wrist position. Happens, especially when you're learning. It could also be that the action of your high E string is too low. I've seen that a couple of times. So just have a look at your guitar and make sure the action is fine. So what kind of guitar are you playing? If you're playing an electric guitar, most of the time, the action of a guitar. So I'm playing with the camera a little bit. The action of the guitar is it's got a curve like this. So the high E string is a little bit lower than the other strings, and it's fine. It's perfectly normal. Okay, a shovel. So nice guitar, by the way. So yeah, just double check that the high E string isn't too low, because it happens sometimes. It can be just because of the way you play, but sometimes it's literally just the string being too low. On my guitar, I tend to have a high action, for example, on my guitar. Yeah, that's not going to work. I'm not going to be able to show you guys, but yeah, the action is quite, it's not low. Let's put it that way. I rarely play low action guitars because it makes me more precise. But it's something to look at. Gerard, great. That's what I wanted to ask you about. Getting that high E string out properly when playing with the thumb over the neck, and even more so with the embellishments. Yes, I see what you mean. I still have some trouble with that, though I usually play with the thumb over the neck. Is that for another webinar? All good. Yeah, I think it's worth having a proper webinar, half an hour, just on playing with the thumb, just to clear everything up. The high E string problem is very common. I'm just going to give you a clue because I don't like leaving club members or students without an answer. Like it's not the way it works. I'm just going to give you a clue. So a chord, the definition of a chord is 3 notes, 3 unique notes played together. When you play guitar, when you're playing, let's say, a G major with a bar chord like this, you're playing 6 strings. So that means you obviously have some strings that play the same note, an octave higher, an octave lower, whatever. What I mean by that is you probably don't need to play all the strings together all the time. I rarely play all the strings of a bar chord all together. It's something I rarely do. Maybe when I'm playing acoustic guitar, just to, when someone is singing and I'm playing acoustic guitar, but on the electric guitar, it's rare. I usually go. So what I do, not now, but what I used to do when I was struggling with that high E string is I used to just slightly adjust my hand position to aim for that high E to be clean when I was about to hit it. That's it. And doing so trained me to just get the right position so I wouldn't have to adjust my hand position. But don't feel bad if you're making that high E string, like if it's muted. So I guess what you've got is something like this. Very, very common. And you'll see that it's probably a very small adjustment. You see, like if I do this, it's muted. Now, like I haven't moved my hand. I'm going to move my hand. There we go. And now it's not going to be muted. So you see I'm out of tune again, but you see the adjustment is very, very subtle. So it's all about finding that point where it works for you, it works for your hand, and it works for your playing position. The playing position matters, as in, again, push the guitar forward, and you'll see that naturally by pushing your guitar forward, you see my first finger, how it's dropping. You're going to be a little bit more precise. It may unlock that high E string. You never know. Right, guys. So that's it for my tricks on bar chords. It was just a few things I wanted to mention because, it's the new term starting soon. I want my students to be able to play bar chords. I want you to play bar chords because I know being stuck there is annoying. So Veraconium, sometimes could you do a session on cage chords? I'm finding them quite hard on my pathway. Of course, yeah. Me or another mentor, but I'm using cage all the time. It's I know how difficult it is. If you're struggling with your bar chords, I would say stay on your bar chords until they work and then move on to the caged, and you'll see that they're probably going to be a lot easier. But I think Veraconium, I think I've done your progress review, the last one, if I'm not wrong. And it was actually pretty good, if I remember right. So I guess it's all like getting there now. Yes, cool. Yeah, it's all getting there. if I remember right, your cage sounded pretty nice. So don't worry about it. It's gonna get there. But I'll definitely. I mean, I'm up for whatever live session on whatever you guys want. That's the goal, you know. So Raf says, I also hate that position. I genuinely don't bother during that mini bar in the high E, since it's still a major chord without it. Yes, absolutely. But if I'm playing a part that needs that note, I struggle. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would be my last advice. Look at the song you're studying or about to play and look at the context. Most of the notes you've got in your playing position on a bar chord, you probably don't need. Probably just need a few of them. Again, it's something I want to talk about in the future, but I rarely play all the strings when I'm strumming. That's the main difference between me playing, you know, or just letting the reverb die a little bit. It's just way more interesting dynamically to not play all the strings all the time. So you can probably adjust a little bit. Right, guys, I hope you enjoyed my live session. If it feels like it was, my last one was like so long ago. It wasn't, but it's just that I had a long break. And I think next week you'll probably have Kyle again with the reveal of the challenges. So I'm quite excited to see that because yeah, you guys did really well with that. Enjoy your Saturday. Today's Saturday. Yes, enjoy your Saturday and keep practicing your bar chords. Let me know in Discord how you're getting on with them. If you've got more questions on them, I'll be very happy to help. Take care, everyone. Bye bye. See ya.